Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on cybersecurity for artificial intelligence. We have our world famous speakers, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Jiri, Mr. Rob Enderle, and Mr. David Smith. First, I would like to ask questions to Mr. Thomas. Please introduce yourself and how can organization ensure the privacy and integrity of sensitive training data uses in AI system, particularly when dealing with personal or proprietary information.
I have to answer for this question.
Yes, Mr. Thomas. Yeah.
Introduce yourself, Thomas. Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, just simply, I'm entrepreneur architect, enterprise architect. I'm helping owners of companies be more effective by artificial intelligence tools and using these artificial intelligence tools, there is necessary also to keep information and cyber security. So I'm helping them to prepare a whole solution to keep their security and also automatize their company processes to be more effective. I'm doing this job about 20 years.
Thank you. Thank you. We have our new speakers. Mr. Broad, can you please introduce yourself? And our next question for you. What are adversarials attack in AI model and how can they be detect or mitigate before they compromise system performance or safety? Mr. Broad.
Oh, okay. My name's Brad Zahner. I'm retired. I was in business 30 years, and I taught for 27 years, and I was director of the master's degree in science and technology commercialization program at University of Texas, and I'm an IC squared or a Tando fellow. So, and I'm curious about AI because all four of my kids work in tech and two are working in developing AI systems now. Both my daughters work in AI, and I'm interested in the ethical issues surrounding it because most AI systems are trained by what? Men. So is there a feminine side that's not included? I don't know. I'm just trying to learn more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for your response, Professor, and thank you for joining today's sessions. Mr. Jiri, what you want to discuss about this question?
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Jiří Borč. I am a human, and I would like to discuss today the Czech Republic, where I am from, also Thomas from. I would like to tell you briefly the situation which is in the Czech Republic concerning cybersecurity and AI. So I would like to be speaking about this today briefly in my presentation. So thank you very much, and I hand over back to you, Sharif.
Thank you. Mr. Rob Enderle, what you want to respond about this question?
Rob, you're muted.
So you're asking about ensuring privacy and integrity of sensitive training data used in AI systems. Right, that's the question?
Yes.
So the way you do that is first you assure your sources of your training data has to come from areas that are themselves assured. If the training sources have been compromised, then your data sets are going to be compromised. So you have to assure the data sources. You have to audit. You can't just initially assure, you have to audit on a regular basis. And given the size of these data sources, you probably are going to need some type of an AI audit program to do it because the humans just can't handle trillions of data elements. And even using sampling methodology, you might not get to a critical mass of information that would allow you to identify particularly very subtle compromises and biases that have been introduced. Then I would also suggest you have a monitoring system of some type that looks at behavior. You understand and you've set the guardrails around the AI so you know what it's supposed to do, and for the most part, how it's supposed to do it. If it starts veering outside those guardrails, that's an indication that the data set may be compromised, and that should trigger an audit and review and probably an abeyance of the AI until you can discover how bad the problem is, whether there is a problem, how bad the problem is, and then come up with a way to correct and purge whatever the data anomaly is in the data set. But it needs to be fairly rigorous. We're dealing with massive data sets, and if you put in place a proper security organization, which has kind of AI doing the tactical sides of it, humans doing the strategic side, they're the ones setting the guardrails, they're the ones setting the policy, but the AIs are what's implementing that policy at machine speeds to make sure that your auditing AI, your control AI, that doesn't itself become compromised. Because there's a real concern if you have AIs monitoring AIs, that the monitoring AI could itself become compromised, and then you're going to have a problem, larger problem that you initially started with. So you have to assure both components. But that's how I'd go about doing it. A layered approach, starting with assuring the data set and then following up with a behavioral analysis that's ongoing to make sure the AI is staying within the guardrails that people have set.
Thank you. Mr. David Smith, what do you want to respond on? What are the adversarial attack in AI model, and how can they be detected and mitigate before they compromise system performance or safety?
Well, Sri, thank you for that question. And Brad, great having you join us on this today. It's been a while since I've seen you, and it's great seeing you here. The question, Dr. Shreve, is really an interesting one, because adversarial attacks in AI models really, as Rob queued up, involve the deliberate manipulation of input data to deceive or really dramatically change the model's output. And the goal of those is to do them so subtly in a way that humans don't see it as a big shift, but they trigger the incorrect output, they compromise security or safety in others. But at the core, the adversarial attack really exploits the way machine learning models, particularly those based on neural networks, draw their decision answers and how they build their multi-dimensional, high-dimensional input spaces on it. So they look at how to put a way to put small targeted changes to the normal data. And these subtle changes often trick the AI into misclassifying text, images, in revealing sensitive information, or in promoting a propaganda agenda by these small type of things. So these adversarial attacks have multiple ways they do it. One of them is evasion, how they modify input causes the model to make incorrect predictions. There's something called a poisoning attack, where the attackers inject examples in the training data sets to bias the model behavior, to embed vulnerabilities. And the third major one you're seeing today in AI on this is called an inference and model extraction attack, where they interact with the deployed model to recover what the training data was. And once they understand what the training data is, they attempt to reconstruct the model itself. And each of those, as you can see, is very, very different. And they're each very, very challenging. And part of the solution to it, going back to what Rob was saying, is how do you build in layers the ability to combat this? One of them, as he said, is is really take time to validate the pipelines. And because if you look at today how AI machine learning goes with the various streaming data, the neural networks, the heavy stream machine learning, you're dealing with multiple streams. It's not one stream. So as you go back to this, you begin to see, how can I validate those pipelines? You need to have teams, humans, that red team the models. You need to have testing done on it. In the emerging field of looking at the more advanced AI, you're having adversarial testing become part of that process now. One of the keys I've seen is that we've looked at this over actually the decades, both in the commercial space and in the intelligence space, is you have to set matrix in place with this. And what they do is when you see unexplainable and particularly sudden shifts in the model's outputs or what is happening internally in the model, it needs to provide early warnings. So this monitoring against these metrics are extremely important, and is often the things that let you then go use the human teaming to go in and deal with it. And this needs to be continuous. It's not just something you do now and then, kind of like what we see with some of the other security protocols. And then the last one that I really want to throw on the table with you, Dr. Shreve, is there's a new approach called hybrid detection models. And so what you begin to do is in hybrid, you look at how to actually use a variety of AI tools themselves, different types of conventional AI, different types of neural networks, different types of some of the emerging photon enhanced AI tools, some of the new places where you're combining not just the LLMs, but we're beginning to layer in a lot more SLMs, the small learning modules in there. And this hybrid approach of going in and trying to protect the systems, validate the systems, mitigate what they can do, this emerging hybrid approach of using both people and a multitude of AI tools and AI learning modules are, I believe, the approach that we're going to see be most effective in the near term. So thank you, Dr. Shreve.
Thank you. Professor Brad, as you are in academia, so what's your advice, especially for cybersecurity educations, or how the emerging economies, universities can collaborate with your university, or they can improve their curriculums for cybersecurity for AI?
I don't have a lot of advice. I'm at the age where I no longer give advice because it will be wrong. But I think the best thing universities can do is get together and have conversations and cooperate, and sort out issues one by one. This is a really complex emerging area. We don't know about it, and I'm fascinated by it because I'm interested in leadership. And leadership as a formal study is about where psychology was in the 1920s. We know some stuff, we know it when we see it, but we don't understand how it works at a deep level. And one of my fantasies is, could AI help us do a deep dive into leadership and figure out what works and what doesn't work and quantify it? So, and the other issue with leadership is there's so much literature that's been written through the ages. You take Shakespeare, a lot of his stuff, Julius Caesar, I mean, all the classics. How can we better understand the wisdom of those for the ages? But I'm a novice. And I will admit it. I'm just trying to understand the parameters now. So, but I can't give any advice.
Mm-hmm.
Ask me in 2 years. Maybe I will, but not now.
Yeah, Thank you. Mr. Thomas, do you have any advice for industry academic relationship for the cybersecurity and AI-based educations?
Yes, I fully understand all what was before speak, and I would like to add that I'm implementing a lot of AI tools to manufacturing company here in Czech Republic, and what is most important seems to is trust. Yeah, that people first have to trust that the intelligence, artificial intelligence, that they will have still in their hands, and that artificial intelligence tools will be not cyber security hole and issue to lost all data and to have some security attacks inside. So I'm implementing first architecture. The architecture is based on 8 layers, and by these 8 layers helps us to keep the security and artificial intelligence tools, let's say, organized. I try to share with you some the table. Yeah, the table is fortunately in Czech, but just for imagine, I will try to share with you what is my approach. My approach is to split each company to 8 layers. Do you see my table?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So fortunately, this is on Czech Republic, but I'm ready to translate it. First, you have to have all physical equipment as gate for input all the data inside company network. There is data network layer. So by this equipments through the data layer, you storing data in some databases, and the data are using to via application is for reports and for informations. So there is all the informations and reports for company which is spent by owners of business processes in third layer to keep their company strategy on second layer, to keep and is compliance of all the necessary things concerning artificial intelligence. Yeah, this is how I'm implementing artificial intelligence tools in companies. And let me give you also similar table in artificial intelligence. So there is also similar structure that there is cyber security in company architecture, and same that there are, for instance, endpoint security, and by this endpoint security, you can also can have virtual private network to put all the data from the endpoint things via network to some databases, and there is, for instance, security operations center which working for 24/7 and keep IT service management systems for security of informations. And you have to have also in third layer some identity management, some security management. You can on a second layer to keep all this ISO, for instance, certification, zero trust architecture, to keep each legislative things as NIS2, cyber security, NUKIP, which is in Czech Republic office to coordinate all these things via security cybers. So just only to show you that there are some structure which can be used to implement to companies cybersecurity, as well as tools for artificial intelligence. Sorry for my English is not so good, but just to have idea for one of approach how to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Giri, you want to add any point for your...
Yes, I would like to say that I'm very happy to be here. I'm honored to be here with you guys. Also, I would like to say that cooperation is really crucial, as was mentioned by Mr. Brett, and not only between people, but also between nations. And that's why I prepared a small insight about the Czech Republic, a small country in the middle of the Europe. With the cybersecurity AI perspective, I would like to say a couple of sentences. So, the Czech Republic is regional cybersecurity leader in Central and Eastern Europe. Home major cybersecurity companies are Avast, Asset, and CZ and IC. Cybersecurity and artificial intelligence are considered key pillars of national digital strategy. AI is being integrated into both cyber defense system and threat detection tools, making the Czech Republic an emerging AI cybersecurity innovation hub. This is from my side for now, everything, and I would like, Sharif, very much if you can say a couple of words about the situation in Bangladesh as well later. I am very curious. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, Bangladesh is improving in AI and cybersecurity industries. Recently, we are collaborating with the banking industries. Hopefully, through these collaborations, we can make more progress and we can get more case studies and some positive approach on AI and for cybersecurity. Mr. Rob, my next question for you, like what are the major risks associated with the model theft, reverse engineering and model poisoning, and what strategies can be used to secure AI model against this threat? And if you want to...
Sure. I think David mentioned model poisoning. I don't think we really talked much about model theft. And then the the last thing is with regard to strategies. So first, starting out with model theft, the big problem with model theft, unlike stealing an employee or an application that's going to be used external to the company, once the model is stolen, if it's implemented inside a firm, unless somebody either tracked the theft or a whistleblower inside the acquiring firm blows the whistle, it's very difficult to just. It's like any piece of code. If the theft is not caught, catching it after the fact, if it's not a commercial product, is exceedingly difficult. And given how these models are developed, obfuscating the model to a degree where it would be very difficult to determine whether the model was sourced from another model, given these models are built from information that often isn't all that public, or often is under dispute about whether or not it is public, becomes problematic. So the best offense here with model theft is a strong defense. Making sure there are monitors in place that record unauthorized access, the typical security component, making sure there are no escalation of privileges, making sure the people that have access to these models are restricted, and make sure that their activity is monitored. The good news is at least with regard to LLMs and even some small language models, the data files are huge, and that means movement can be detected. Yeah, you could break the model down and move it in parts, but again, that's behavior that can be tracked and detected. And if access is monitored effectively, and those that have access are monitored effectively, you should be able to reduce the risk of model theft. The impact, of course, of model theft is all the money you put into creating a model, and a large model is typically around $100 million to create. That goes to whoever acquired the model for a lot less. And certainly you could see a huge potential to bribe employees or embrace a disgruntled employee and use them to access these files. I would expect, given the risks involved, the company I was a competitive. Excuse me. I was not only an auditor, but I was an auditor that was focused on theft, and I was a competitive analyst as well, which was kind of focused on how you can acquire information legally, and we're trained in specifically how to do it illegally, with the idea that we'll never do it. That's a set of tasks that you're trained in, but you're trained in them so you don't do them. That being said, it's not that it doesn't happen. And when you're talking about models that cost as much as these do, the attractiveness of model theft, particularly between governments, and particularly with regard to defense, would be exceedingly high. And so that's why it's so critical that you don't have a Snowden event where an administrator has access rights and can acquire and access files they shouldn't have access to, and then can pull those files and take them with them. Fortunately, portable storage mediums are, to a large extent, inadequate to contain large language models, but as I say, they're workarounds. Reverse engineering, that's a real problem because of the way these models are built. Often the people that are building the models do disclose their information sources, and if you know the information sources of a particular model, you can do a great deal of the work to replicating that model. And then if you monitor the behavior of the model, it shouldn't be too hard to replicate the decision matrix and duplicate the model. Yeah, it'll take work. Again, using my competitive analysis background, it's called the clean room approach, where you simply look at the behavior of a particular application, and then you replicate that behavior with something else. And so you're not really accessing the code. You're just watching how the model functions and then replicating the model. And today you can use other AI tools to create the duplicate model. So the weeks, months, sometimes years it might take to create a good replica, which wouldn't make sense given how fast models are replicating. I mean, you need to make model theft worthwhile, or model duplication worthwhile, you'd have to do it quick, because otherwise by the time you get it done, it's obsolete anyway, and so who cares? So it'd have to be fast. And so if you're going to replicate, you clean room it, you create an AI that could analyze models, and then you use that AI to generate the replica. And I believe that could be done relatively easily. Granted, the AI you're creating would require a significant investment, but certainly an investment that wouldn't be outside the realm of foreign governments. So that's a real problem. Model poisoning, I think David mentioned that adequately. I won't elaborate, other than to say that there was a company out of Israel called Pure Instinct that did behavioral-based AIs that could be used to implement what David said, where you monitor the behavior of the model and look for it to exceed those guidelines, and then that triggers a review. The Instinct AI does that to a very granular level, and so you given the fact we're dealing with models that can make hundreds of thousands of decisions a minute, if not a second, you really do need AI monitoring. Otherwise, by the time you trigger and react, the damage will be done. And so it's AI against AI here. And remember the hierarchy: people above, AI below. You don't want the AI in the strategic position. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. David Smith. My next question for you: in what ways can AI enhance traditional cybersecurity system to predict, detect, and respond to evolving cyber threat in real time?
Well, thank you, Dr. Kirchgrave. These questions are great because they build one upon the other, and some of the elements which I said, Rob and others had said earlier, totally get in here. So as you look at how AI is really transforming traditional cybersecurity, into a predictive and really autonomous system, as we're seeing automation and autonomy going everywhere across the business ecosystems today. It's no surprise that it's being applied to countering threats against us at machine speeds. And even though these models are large and things, that it's there. And there's, this year we're seeing that the advances in predictive analytics, in generative AI, and the continuous learning models that have made it a much more of a reality and less of a science experiment, which it was a year or two ago. So AI enhances cybersecurity's predictive capability by looking backwards, doing a historical view, of doing a behavioral view, and taking the network level data and running the algorithms and the things against those to forecast what potential attack vectors might be happening before they attack. And it's really trying to decide those attack vectors, because most types of cyber attacks are very different in very nuanced ways. And that's how they try to get around the traditional cat and mouse game of being able to work together there. So what you do is you really build as large as you can training models on a very diverse threat intelligence set of data sets. And one of the things that I enjoyed Rob's answer earlier about the prior question, but I believe on this one it works as well. What we're seeing increasingly is some of the very large LLMs, some of the particularly threat-based LLMs and SLMs are now living in an air-gap network separate from the internet-connected network, so that there's rules of the road, so to speak, of how you can actually access the large models and do that type of work in a manner where they can be modified and manipulated. So you see that, and you see the predictive ones. The other one is going back to what Rob and I both talked about earlier, is how do you look at anomalies? How do you do advanced threat detection? And the AI powered detection systems are getting good. They use a wide variety of learning models to identify behavioral anomalies across really billions and billions of data points, from looking at things like network traffic to APIs to endpoint actions, and particularly to APIs that are complex APIs going across cloud calls. The other thing you're seeing is you're using some very deep-based neural networks to begin to enable these to work in closer to real time. And the goal in a lot of these is both what can it be done autonomously, but also how can these be used to enable network security operations center, SOCs, to distinguish between what is just something that's irregular happening versus what is an emerging attack, and that they need to take much larger action against. And every time a SOC has to take action against what they believe is a large attack, it's going to compromise the ability of the businesses to effectively do business, because you're shutting down access, you're putting extra tools and safeguards in that slows the process and things. So that is a very interesting one as you begin to look at this threat detection. The other is something that I've learned through many different areas. And that, Dr. Sharif, I talk a lot on your different programs about continuous learning and group intelligence. Brad, if you remember, I was an executive at MCC and Sematech, which were all built around those principles. And that is what you need to apply as you're looking at, because unlike static rule-based defense, static rule-based business operations, things where you're seeing AI applied to solve problems, which, algorithm, loops and trees are one of the key things you use there. Those aren't really applicable good in cybersecurity. So you need a system that continuously learns and adapts. It needs to learn both autonomously from the machine learning side, but it's very important to put the human factors back into it, the human side. So Brad made the comment that a lot of the AI tools are not well represented by the female element, but there's also many other elements as you look into the AI models that aren't well represented from cultural basis, from regional basis, and from, I'm going to say this in a way that sounds weird, from the religious wars of the different programming languages, the different models which are applied, the different systems which are used.
Yeah.
Those are, in many instances, when I look at cybersecurity, they're larger than the actual machine code that is being used. Just those philosophical differences between all those things. And they really have to come in. So really, you've got to put in place a way to strengthen your future defense postures. Deep learning, reinforced learning models, multiple scenario developments, using as much ways to put sensors into the screens to learn what's the difference between a trusted and suspicious behaviors across these endpoints, because that lets you, again, you want to anticipate as much the new patterns as they emerge. And the earlier you can get that early warning radar of that new pattern, that's going to help you be effective, particularly in protecting you in the cloud, particularly when protecting you with Internet of Things infrastructure, of automation in automobiles and factories and other places. That's why you haven't seen a lot of this applied into the air traffic control mechanism yet, because the patterns are moving too fast right now, and it's too fragmented for real-time coordination there. And you need to do this in conjunction with not just your threat intelligence, but the governance. Modern AI systems today have to integrate not just the regional threat intelligence, but it has to integrate global threat intelligence feeds. And we're beginning to see these new feeds which enable continuous updates, situational awareness of these new patterns, new malware, new threat actors which are emerging, new geographical approaches or spread ones. And a great example of this is here in the United States. Our NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, have established an AI risk management framework, which is actually a pretty good model that looks at how to do this. And part of the NIST model is they have what they call a shadow AI system that operates out of sanctioned IT controls. And what this does is it lets you begin to see in the wild what is happening before it comes back into the controlled environments. And you're seeing this with other international bodies coming in, and this integration of this governance and the threat intelligence, this international threat intelligence by folks like the G7 and the CISA and others, and in the EU, what we're seeing emerging in Asia right now is going to be so important for this to happen. Because, Sheree, like we talk about on many of the issues on your program, geography today is global. Geography today is not local to your state, to your region, to your nation. Our borders do not stop cyber attacks from crossing borders. And it's a global thing. So you have to have this collaborative global approach to set up these frameworks, to set up this international threat intelligence if we're going to truly be able to control our cybersecurity in the future. So thank you, Dr. Sri.
Thank you, Professor Broad. My next question for you: how can human errors or bias in AI development or deployment increase cybersecurity's vulnerabilities, and what governance mechanism can reduce such risk?
I'm not certain I understand.
Okay, in that situation, if you want to share your view about leadership, as you are expert of leadership, that will be valuable for our audience, because the example in different emerging economy, they are transforming with leadership challenge. So what's your thought?
Yeah, where I'm at is I think we have to understand leadership at a much deeper level, and how it works and how it doesn't work. I just finished writing a manuscript that I've got to polish on some of these issues. But the ultimate question in my mind is, what will the world look like in 15 or 20 years? What kind of leaders will be needed, and what is effective leadership? I mean, I'll come out and say it. In the U.S., we have ineffective leadership under Trump right now. It's a disaster. But what will happen? And one of the things I'm always fascinated by, David, is his ability to peer into the future and come up with different points of view, and think about some of the. Okay, everybody's on AI today. Everybody's on it. Will that stand the test of time? Remember, we're all about the same age. The Japanese total quality management. Where's that now? That's just kind of baked into almost every system. Is AI another fad du jour? I don't know. I mean, I have more questions than I have answers. Yeah. And I'm certain my answers will be wrong. But I'm fascinated by the human progress. What's important, what's not? Dave, what do you think? I mean, you take on difficult questions that I wouldn't dare tackle. But is AI a fad? Or will it just eventually find its own level? Like most new technologies, the path is everybody's excited. It's wonderful. It's going to save the world. Okay. And then the disappointments arrive and people turn away. But over the next 5 or 10 or 15 years, they find applications that truly work. And then it comes back. So those are questions I have in my mind, and I think Dave has a lot of insights. I always trust his judgment. I don't always agree with you, Dave, but
that's fine. If we all agreed, we wouldn't be doing the right things. Sri, let me give a quick answer on that. Brad, I was honored a few weeks ago to be asked to be a keynote speaker in a session during the General Assembly of the United Nations. And the session I was one of the keynote speakers in was called AI and Humanity.
Wow.
And a fantastic group of speakers in there, from the grandmother of Silicon Valley to Trudeau's ex-wife, who's brilliant, to other folks like that as well. And AI is going to be here. And I say it differently. I think AI that's using good data is always going to be here. Because if you don't have good data, AI doesn't work. And as long as we can keep the data in a way, because I believe the next thing after data and AI is going to be speed of innovation. And if we're going to get to speed of innovation, you've got to use AI tools. You've got to use autonomous systems. You're going to use robotics to get to speed of innovation. And you're going to use this vast network of sensors that give us a non-human way to grow our data. Today, if I look on the internet, over 70% of the data on the internet is generated by non-humans. And that's going to continue to go up. So, Brad, that to me is part of the answer, is we can do those things to get that data in a way where we can trust the data, because data becomes information, information becomes knowledge, knowledge becomes wisdom, hopefully. And then when you have that, you get action. But you have to go through that curve. And all of those are equally important as you do this. And that's why today, like the number of AI companies, I believe 85% of the AI companies that are there today will fail because they don't understand that progress. And that's my quick answer. So sorry for going down that way, Sharif, but I can tell you, coming out of that session where I was one of the keynotes at the UN, I heard that theme in different ways of saying it dozens of times during those sessions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mr. Thomas, are you there? Yeah, I think, and Jiri, you want to respond on this question?
Yes, I would like to respond to the leadership. First of all, I would like to thank you, Mr. Thomas Haverda, for inspiration in the following thoughts on my leadership. I would like to say that the leadership has some, for me, very important aspects, like, for example, that leader never rushes things. And this is interesting for combination of leadership and AI. This is very interesting concept for me. I would like to get deeper into it, and I would like to get to read more about BREAD principles as well. The next principle which we have with Thomas, which Thomas taught me, that leader helps others. This is very important to achieve their own success. And wise leader notices what's going on. That's another principle. And maybe I would like to mention one more. Wise leader serves others. And there are a couple of principles which we are studying, which I'm studying, and which Thomas helps me to implement into building the big communities around the whole world. And thank you again, Thomas, for these thoughts. Thomas, would you like to say something?
Yes, thanks. I know that this topic which we discussed today is very important for our future, and I'm also involved not only on the artificial intelligence, but also about intelligence of human, intelligence of something what was described by Carl Gustav Jung, that all the people has some collective intelligence. And for me, it's important to this nature intelligence will be always above the artificial intelligence, means that people will use artificial intelligence only as a tool, not only something which will be above us. So this is my wish at the end, that we have to also be focused on our nature, let's say nature things which made us human. So thank you for your discussion, all your topics, and it was important for me to listen everybody here.
Thank you. Mr. Rob, my next questions to you. What are the ethical and regulatory challenges associated with deploying AI system in critical infrastructure from a cybersecurity standpoint, as well as what's your closing remarks for today?
Okay, so the ethical and regulatory, you think those would be aligned, but often they're not. So from an ethical standpoint, you want a set of guidelines that are consistent with the ethical rules of the company with regard to how you're implementing the cybersecurity solution. That means the restrictions on content, the restrictions on behavior, all of that should fall back and up through the overall ethical guidelines that the company has established for itself to showcase consistency. If the AI is not conformant to those guidelines, it's going to form its own, and you may not be happy with the result. Regulatory challenges is a whole different ball of worms, can of worms. Sorry. For regulatory, the issue right now is the regulatory agencies, and I say this globally, are really not up to speed on AI yet, and that means there's a high probability that regulations, though well intended, may unintentionally do damage, or if they are well written, and the U.S. has just put forward a series of regulatory guidelines recently, which are well written. That can hinge on the auditing capability and enforcement of those guidelines. And that's where I think regulations are going to fall short here. It is governments really aren't structured, at least right now, to go into companies and even do intensive audits anymore, at least not here in the US. And the staffing just isn't adequate. And going in and auditing a company's AIs, I don't see the workforce that would be needed to do that being spun up, and it would have to be fairly significant, along with the artificial intelligence tools you would need to audit those AIs and assure them. And so here, I think what first needs to happen is governments need to rapidly develop their own AI experts, folks that they trust, that they'll listen to, and they won't do like our health organizations doing and have the wrong people giving the orders. But that often happens with governments, so here the AI enforcement needs to be built from the ground up, and you create the expertise first, then you put in place the regulations that the experts know that they can enforce. And that way the outcome will be positive. If you do it ass backwards, which is typically the way this is done, regulations first, staffing second, the competency, the regulations will either exceed the capabilities of the organization structured to implement them, or they'll be misaligned and either non-functional or do damage to your AI industry. And there's a lot of concern right now on both sides, at least here in the US. Concerns that the AI isn't regulated enough, and concerns that it's going to be misregulated. I think Peter Thiel calls that misregulation side satanic by nature. You need a cohesive approach to the problem, I guess is what I'm saying, and you need the experts leading the way. And that's my final and closing remarks.
Thank you. Mr. David Smith, my next question for you: how might emerging technologies such as quantum computing, generative AI redefine the landscape of cybersecurity in next decade? And what's your closing remarks?
It's going to totally change it. But let me just add on one thing that Rob was talking about too. If I were looking today at the regulatory challenges with AI, I would look at a couple of other places too. And one other that Rob mentioned was some of the frameworks here in the United States. I mentioned the NIST one earlier. If I am trying to look at a way to totally secure my AI frameworks, the Department of Defense CIO recently, maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, released an excellent framework that anybody can take and model off of. And that is a very good framework to use. But the quantum world is just going to dramatically change AI. And I'm going to be criterion here. I do not believe it's just the quantum world. I believe the biological computing that we're beginning to see come into place that takes neural networks to a whole new level. I believe we're seeing more and more dramatic advances in photon computing that is going to take here. And we're beginning to see the growth of hybrid chips that are quantum effects, neural networks, photon computing, all combined in the same die, and using morphological approaches to go between those. I believe that is going to revolutionize this as much as what we're seeing with the quantum computing. The quantum computing really is going to change how we secure everything. You know, the RSA 2048 and the ECC, which are two of the big crypto standards, they're going to be obsolete in the next probably 3 years or so as you get there. But malicious actors with quantum capabilities are going to target communications, financial data, health records, critical infrastructure in a big way. And what we're seeing today is something that all your listeners need to be aware of, Dr. Sri, is there is a term called harvest now, decrypt later. And this type of attack is already underway, where adversaries are going out and capturing large data sets that are encrypted, that they cannot use traditional computational approaches today and crack in any meaningful way. So they're taking those, they're putting them to the side, and they plan to harvest that data when they get more advanced quantum computing capabilities to be able to go and encrypt them at a later time. So harvest now and really decrypt later is there. And the other side of it is there is a tremendous amount of money going into both governments, large corporation intelligence agencies are investing in post-quantum cryptography, which are quantum-resistant algorithms that are designed to withstand quantum attacks. NIST here in the United States, I mentioned earlier, has already tried to put something out to standardize that. And the role of AIs, and particularly multimodal AI, is really changing with this new way, with its both its offensive, its defensive capabilities. So we are actually in a arms race. Instead of nuclear bombs and submarines and ships, we're in an arm race around artificial intelligence. I mean, some of the AI I see coming out of China is mind-boggling. And we've got to understand how to play with that. You know, are we going to have an AI arms race where it's for the public good? Are we going to have it as an AI arms race where it's proprietary and protected in an adversarial view and not shared? Or is it going to be an AI arms race that we all contribute to on a global scale and can all advance by it? I think, Dr. Sri, that's the challenge of what you've seen with today's program, is what is that future going to be, and what is the preferred future, and what can we do to help push towards our preferred futures versus the alternatives. So Dr. Sri, thank you for letting me be part of this.
Thank you. Professor Broad, what's your closing remarks for today?
Thank you for letting me participate. I appreciate it. I'm learning a lot. You gentlemen have provoked a lot of thoughts, and I'm still trying to connect them.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Giri, what's your closing remarks for today?
Sorry. I would like to invite you guys to my country, to the Czech Republic, for lunch. This is my personal invitation to you all, and I would like to be happy to meet you in person in my country. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's session. Definitely, we accept your invitation, Mr. Jiri. We're going to visit with all of our fellow. Maybe you can organize a conference, a talent economy conference, so we can invite all of our friends in Czech Republic. We can have a dinner or lunch with you. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Rob, Mr. David Smith, Mr. Jiris, and Professor Broad for your continuous support for World Talent Economic Forums. And I request all of our audience, please share our content as much as possible with the government agency, corporation, and academia. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care.
Okay.